It's really nice to see some familiar faces as well here, and some new faces too. I don't think we need much of an introduction because we're such a small group. Of course, we have Madu, who is a presenter, and she's also our ITHF Virtual Tour Committee member, and so is Valsa. She's an ITHF committee member as well. And I just see that Mid is joining in, and Mid is one of our committee members too. So I guess, the background of why these virtual tours started, COVID period, people couldn't travel. So it was a good opportunity to maintain the connections and do these virtual tours. In fact, now that the COVID is finished, but this has become so actually liked by everybody, because when you traveled on your own, it was just a one-to-one connection. By having these virtual tours and meeting on Zoom, people are able to make additional connections and really get to know the other ITHF members. So please promote it within your clubs, within your districts, about ITHF and these virtual tours that we have. In fact, now we also have a separate section on virtual tours on the ITHF website, where you can get all the information about it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Valsa, who is going to formally introduce Madu. I mean, everybody knows Madu, but this is her formal introduction, following which Madu will do a presentation. We'll have questions and answers after that. We are a small group, so you don't really need to type in your questions. We can just take the questions on the fly and go from there. Unfortunately, I will have to leave after the question and answers because I have a lunch engagement to go to. So we won't have a breakout room because this is a small group, so we can just sit and chit-chat together. So Valsa, please go ahead and introduce Madu. Thank you.
Thank you, Sibi. Ladies and gentlemen, with great pleasure, I would like to introduce Rotarian Madu Bishnu, President Elect and VP, East India and Bangladesh, ITHF, who is our speaker today. Madu Bishnu, or Madu, as she is called by all Rotarian colleagues all over the world, lives in Calcutta. She is the past president and currently Community Service Chair of E-Club of Melbourne, RID 9800, Australia. Madu is a member of 20+ Rotary Fellowships and a couple of Rotary Action Groups, Rotarian Genealogy, Environment Fellowship of Rotarians, Authors and Writers Fellowship, Blood Donors Fellowship, so on and so forth. She is a member of various Rotary Action Group like RAG for Peace, for Refugees, etc. Madu also has held many leadership roles and holding also presently the past chair of Education Fellowship and Rotarian on Internet Fellowship, Editors and Publishers Fellowship, and presently she is Social Media Director of International Fellowship of Rotarian Musicians. Besides these, Madu has tremendous volunteering experiences. She has volunteered as a Rotarian English teacher in Taiwan and in various village schools in India. Madu has attended all the RI conventions since 1998 and has been the Sergeant at Arms in all of them. Madu's articles on her Rotary experiences have been published in various Rotary magazines. She's a Rotary volunteer and is a TRF cadre too. She has held many leadership roles and has visited various countries on behalf of TRF. Madu has worked for several matching grant projects and global grant projects with various international clubs. She's been a speaker in several Rotary conferences in India and speaker in several clubs of RID 5170 USA. Madu is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow and a bequest member. She's done Masters in Islamic History from University of Calcutta and works in Oak Tree Connect. a company dealing with mental wellness patients in Birmingham, UK. Madu's hobbies include traveling, photography, cooking, reading, and listening to music. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a speaker, a passionate Rotarian who's absolutely dedicated to its cause. Madu, we look forward to your presentation. All yours.
Thank you so much, Balsa, one more time for introducing me. I'm very much obliged to you. So greetings to everyone present here. I would start the presentation. Before that, I would just like to say that why did I choose this topic? The reason is that we had an ITHF tour to Nepal and to Bhutan in 2017. And a group of ITHF members from Taiwan, led by our past administrator, Aircon, and they had gone to Lumbini Gardens, the place where Buddha was born. And Aircon gave me the idea that why don't we do a trip of Buddhist trail in covering Nepal and India. And that was something which was very interesting to me. I personally did that trip on my own, covering both the countries. And I really liked it, what I learned and what I saw. And then I shared that with our President Bala, with our ITHF virtual tour committee chair, Likhya Corridor. And it's been suggested that in November of 2023, we do this trip. We shall share it with our tour committee chair, past President Sheila Hart, and the committee, so that we can go about and do this trip. So that's the reason why this virtual travel. So I shall first share the map, which will help all of you to understand that where Buddha was born and how he came about coming to India, how he became enlightened, that is how he became Buddha. He was not born as Buddha. And then finally he died and he was cremated in India. So this is Nepal. And this is Lumbini, as all of you can see, and this is Kapilavastu. So Buddha was born in Lumbini Gardens, and he grew up for quite some time in Kapilavastu. Then he walked, and he, because he left the worldly pleasure, the materialistic pleasure, and he wanted to find the truth and be enlightened. So he started walking, and his trail was from Sravasti, and he walked all the way to Sarnath, which is close to Varanasi, and he went to Kausambi. Then he came to Bodh Gaya under the Bodhi tree. He meditated for 40 days, and he became Buddha, that is the knower. And he started spreading the enlightenment that he received. So he started spreading that message, and he walked all these places. And finally, he came to Kushinagar, and he died here, and he's cremated here. So this is the whole trail of Buddha. And so now I'll go into a little bit of details. Just a moment, I'll just open the door. There's somebody at the door. I'm sorry about this.
While Madhu is away, I would like to welcome all the everybody who joined in late. Welcome to this presentation. And as I was mentioning earlier, we will have a question and answer session after this. And depending on how many others join in, we'll either have a break room or not. So I hope you can you know, you get really good information from this presentation and are able to join in the trip later on that Madhu is planning.
Sorry about that. So this is the map that as I was speaking about. Now I shall share. He was born as Siddharth. He had, in fact, different names before he became Buddha. So Siddharth or Gautam was born in Lumbini Gardens, and which is present day in Nepal, and between 5th to 6th century BC. He grew up as a prince. His father was a very well-known king, Hindu king, and he grew up as a prince in Kapilavastu in Nepal. And when he was born, it was a practice in those days to invite soothsayers, that is, they predict the future. So his father had invited 5 soothsayers to say the future that beholds this new prince that was born. And all the 5 soothsayers, 4 of them were wanting to please the king because they would be rewarded if they pleased the king. So they mentioned whatever his father, King Shuddhodhan, wanted to hear. They mentioned that. They didn't say the truth. The 5th soothsayer was really not frightened of the king. And so he mentioned that he will become, Siddharth or Gautam will become a very famous person who will shun all materialistic attractions and will be a famous person, and the whole world will be knowing about him, but he shall not be a king. Of course, his father was very upset, really didn't like to hear about it, but the truth must be told. So King Shuddhodhan tried his best to protect Siddharth, that, you know, he should be just like a prince. He should grow up. He should be a very courageous leader. People will look up to him, and he must protect the kingdom. So he really tried his best. But you know what fate is there that not people can change that. So he was married at a very young age, and he was married to Princess Yashodhara from a very well-known kingdom. And they had a son, Rahul. So all this time, you know, Buddha was just continuing as he was expected to. But in this time, he had seen 5 things outside the kingdom, which actually made a big impact on his life. And he decided that he shall not continue as was expected to, he was wanted to continue. So he gave up the materialistic things. He got a call from God, and he just left one night his young wife and his baby son, and he left to walk on foot. So he started walking, and in search of truth, in search of that enlightenment that he was seeking, so that he would understand, and there would be a feeling in him to say that yes, this is what he has wanted to look for all the time. So he walked in Kapilavastu towards Magad. Now I shall go back to the map. So every time I shall go back to the map for you to understand what is the area that I'm talking about. So here he started walking, and now he is gradually coming to this place. So he is coming to Magad. Magad is actually in this area. So he is reached Magad, and everywhere his people around him wanted to pressurize him that he should go back to his kingdom, but he was not interested to do that. Instead, he was wanting to look for that path for peace. Now, these are some of the images that actually at a very young age he saw outside his kingdom that led him to decide that he was not to remain in the kingdom. And so it is death is one, people very much sick and needing help is another one. And he understood that there's a lot of pain, and there is people are suffering because of all this sickness and pain. So he could not do much, yet he wanted to do something. So these are some of the images that helped him to understand that, he shall not find the ultimate truth if he is there within his four walls of the kingdom. And he starts looking out for that search. So he goes through a lot of hardships because he was not sure that how would he attain this peace, this pathway to peace. So he really was torturing his body, and he was into fast, so much so that he actually fell very sick. And people were not wanting to serve him, not really offer their help to him, because he was so sick and he was out on the road. Nobody was wanting to look at him. It was at this time that he met this lady, Sujata, who actually offered him food and drink and helped him to stop his fast. Now, all of you might know that in Hinduism, we have the four main castes, and out of that, the lowest one is the untouchables. So this lady, Sujata, she belonged to that lowest caste, and people actually criticize that, Buddha is taking help of food and drink from an untouchable. But Buddha didn't care, and Buddha was only wanting to get that much of necessity, otherwise he would not have lived. So he walked and he came to this Bodhi tree, as I was mentioning. So let's go back to the map one more time. And here is Bodh Gaya. So the Bodhi tree is in Bodh Gaya, and Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, and after 40 days of meditation, he actually reached that enlightenment, or moksha. That is, he understood that there is peace after death. There is no the soul is there, but there is actually reincarnation. The Hindus, they believe, some believe that the soul reaches the body of another person, and some believe that it dies when the body is cremated. So this is the place where Buddha became Buddha. So he 40 days of meditation, and he attained enlightenment, Buddha or knower. And he started finding the answers to his search that he was looking into. So what he does is, once he understood that if he does away with the materialistic thing, that will help him to attain peace, he starts walking, and he gradually gets followers, and he starts spreading the messages. So from Bodh Gaya, he goes to Sarnath, which is 1 kilometer from Varanasi. And that is where he got his first 4 followers, and he preached his first sermon to his followers. From Sarnath, he then went to Sravasti, where he spent many monsoons there, and he was teaching the followers, and he started gradually getting more followers. So I'll just go back to the map one more time. So here is Sravasti, and here is Sarnath. So as you can see, Varanasi is a very big city. It's one of the oldest cities in India that we have. And here he taught to his first 4 followers the sermon that he gave here in Sarnath. And then he walked on foot, and he came to Sravasti, where he spent many monsoons. Now, from Sravasti, he actually walks towards Kushinagar. So in Kushinagar is where he died at a very young age. And this place is famous. This is a very small place in Uttar Pradesh state of India. And this place is famous only because Buddha has been cremated here. So people all across the world, they like to come and visit this place, and they only come to see the place where he was cremated. So that is how Buddha's life ended. Now, I just want to share with all of you all that Buddha was preaching what he believed and what he attained through hardship, through meditation. And there were a lot of Hindu kings after Buddha who actually wanted to spread the message. There was one king who fought a deadly war, and he saw in front of him 10,000 people were killed. And that really hurt him a lot to see so much of bloodshed in the name of conquering one kingdom after another. And he became Buddhist. So what he did was he actually took all these summary of these messages, the preachings of Lord Buddha, and then he had it carved on these pillars or stupas, as we say. And the architecture is very intricate. And this is in central part of India. The state is Madhya Pradesh, and the place is called Sanchi Stupa in Sanchi. So all these pillars that you see are very intricately, the architecture is very intricate, and people take a lot of time to actually go through it, trying to understand that what is it that Buddha wanted to share with the world. Now, the 4 lions that you see here, in our currency, Indian currency, we actually have the Ashoka pillar, and the 4 lions are there. So that is a symbol that is there in all our currency notes. And this is something very important. And it's Ashoka is one of the king who has been very deeply impacted by Buddhism. And he really spread the religion. He really did his best. Some more of this intricate architectural work. So you see the foundation of these structures. And here it's mentioned which side is which part of the preaching is mentioned here. So that is done on this foundation. And these are the various sides of the photographs that I had taken. I personally have gone to these places, and I've spent time to get the photographs. Now we'll come to the photographs where I would like to show you all that where Buddha was born and how he came about to India. So this is Lumbini Gardens. This is the place where Buddha was born. And this is a part of this Lumbini garden, where the architecture is there. It's just a flat land, but it actually shows where the layout, it shows the layout. Then he goes to Sravasti, as I was mentioning. And so this is the layout of the Sravasti area. I shall also share. This is Kushinagar. This is the place where he has been cremated. And this is Sarnath. So this is the place where a lot of Buddhist followers, they visit this place. And this is one of the statues of Buddha. I shall come to the slide where I shall share which are the countries who follow Buddhism. And every country, the ones who follow Buddhism, have their own image of Lord Buddha. So that is the way they want to depict. I shall come to that slide. So these are some of the photos that I took, and I'm sharing with all of you all. I shall just read out very briefly. This is in Sravasti, but I shall read out what is it that this particular pillar is showing. This is another large building in Jetwana and is situated at the northern end of the site, Saheb. This is a monastery facing east and has a shrine and mandapa set in the middle of its courtyard. Built in the latest building epoch of the place, the monastery is laid on the usual plain, a central courtyard surrounded on all sides by rows of cells with a veranda in front. The central chamber of the eastern row of rooms is the largest of all chambers and forms the entrance cell leading into the courtyard. The pillars were presumably of wood. An interesting feature of the mandapa of the monastery is that its fronts there appears to have been a porch with a sloping floor. The roof of the porch was carried on 4 piers. The porch intervenes between the mandapa and the passage leading into the sanctum. 2 brick bases of the piers are extant. So this is the pillar, and this is the area behind the pillar is what this is all describing about. So this is Sravasti, and here is the place where he spent many monsoons. Now, I would like to share with all of you all that there are 19 countries around the world that follow Buddhism. All these 19 countries, Buddha image is there in Bodh Gaya in Bihar state of northern India. So I shall read out the countries which follow Buddhism: India, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, Tibet, Hong Kong, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, just a second, Mongolia, Singapore, Thailand, Laos, and North Korea. So if you were to go to Bodh Gaya, there you shall see all these 19 countries' images on Buddha. Like Japan has made of stone, it's black stone, and it is 80 feet high. Thailand is completely made from gold. So every country that has adapted Buddhism, they have their own image. Now, I would just like to touch on the concept and the philosophy under Buddhism. I'll not go into a lot of details because it will take a lot of time. So what did Buddha believe? He believed to avoid life extremes such as worldly pleasure, addiction, or a life of harsh asceticism and self-mortification. Buddhism is unconcerned with metaphysical disagreements. Buddha emphasized the importance of moral advancement, which was independent of any universe creator. The idea that life is fleeting is at the heart of Buddhism. Buddha appears to have acknowledged the concept of reincarnation. The Buddhist philosophy and way of life are laid out in the 3 jewels, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, and the 5 precepts. The first 3 doctrines are pursued by those who either adopt a monastic life or are involved in a deep philosophical interpretation of Buddhism. The Buddha presented his philosophy in the 4 noble truths. Life is suffering, disease, death, and emotional pain are inevitable. Attachment causes suffering. An attempt to derive happiness from things that have shape and form results in suffering because these are not permanent. So this is just in brief. I have not gone into details. And lastly, I would like to end that this is the image that we usually see in most places, where Buddha has one palm raised, blessing all his disciples all across the world, and he is sitting in the Padmasana, or the lotus position. Padma is lotus. So lotus position is how he sits, and he blesses his followers by raising his right hand. And on the left hand, it's on the intersection where his feet have joined. Now, there are several images, like, there is half-lying Buddha, there is both palms raised where it's actually blessing, and then, of course, there is one palm raised and one palm not raised. So this is Buddha, really peaceful, has attained the ultimate moksha, and he is teaching all of us to look for that inner self within us so that we can all attain peace. So this is, in short, the presentation that I shared with all of you. Thank you very much for listening to me, and any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you, Ercon. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So Madhu, you'd said that this is that it was a 10-day tour, right? To
Yes.
go to places.
Yes. It would be a 10-day tour. I mean, I personally did it for 15 days, but in case 15 days is too much, so that's why I'm reducing it and making it 10 days, because Lumbini Garden can be done within a day, at the most 2 days. I think so, but of course, Maheshwar is there, he can suggest, and the rest can be done in India.
I believe, Ercon, you have done this trip, right? What were your experiences on this trip? You're muted. Ercon, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Madhu, for a very good presentation to introduce the tour route and also the Buddha's life and even the Buddha's philosophy. Is very, very good presentation. But anyway, on 2017, we have a group or ITHF group over 28 something, but from different countries to visit Bhutan and Nepal. So a small group of us also went to Lumbini to visit the birthplace of Buddha. On that time, we believe if we can complete a real journey to follow Buddha would be a very good idea. So that's why we ask Madhu to make this organization, and she really spent a few years to collect the information and make this presentation, and I hope next November, this tour may come true. And I will spread this information to our ITHF members, even to some my Buddhist friends, and they may interest to go. So anyway, I'm looking forward to this very, very good journey in India and Nepal. Maybe go back to Lumbini. Thank you.
I would like to welcome everybody who joined in late. Hi, Alonso. Hi, Carolyn. So Alonso is a member of our committee as well, as is Mid. Any other questions?
So, Madhu, you mentioned about a Buddhist train. Is that a specific train, or were you just charting the route?
No, it's not a train, it's a trail. So I flew to Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh. And from there, I hired a car. And that car I had with me for 15 days. And every place I went, wherever Buddha walked on foot. And so, I went to Lumbini Gardens because he was born there. So I wanted to see the area. And it's actually, Lumbini Gardens is huge. Absolutely huge. And, so much of donations come in from all over the world because everybody's so curious to see that area, where he was born. And so, I was there. I stayed there for one night. And then I came and I visited Shravasti, Bodh Gaya, Varanasi, so that I could go to Sarnath. And I ended my trip in Kushinagar. That is the place where he was cremated. And from Kushinagar, I came to Lucknow and I flew back to Calcutta.
I see. Okay. You were showing pictures of the stupas, and you mentioned that the Buddhist scriptures were written on those. So what language? Was it Pali language?
Pali,
or what?
Yes, Pali language, yes. that is in central part of India. That is a different part because, as you know, India is so big, so you won't be able to cover so much. If we do the trail, we really can't go and see central part of India. But yes, I mean, that can be for another time.
And what inspired you to take this journey? Like, what was the...
History is my background, so I actually love anything to do with history, and Buddha is what I studied about when I was in school. And then I thought, why not? Let's see. Because if you go to southern part of India, you shall see a lot of Buddhism influence. There are a lot of kings who have adapted, and they have actually done a lot of stone carvings. So, that really... I was very curious that, okay, why not and find out what is it that is, attracts so many countries.
So this is a 10 or a 12-day trip, or?
Yes. 10 days would be really ideal. Maheshwar, one day in Lumbini would be okay, or should it be 2 days?
Yeah, I think it will require 2 days to explain. We can start from Lumbini or coming from Kathmandu, or there is a airport now, direct flight to Lumbini also these days.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Aircom, they flew to Lumbini.
I wanted to add one more point here, just to clarify. This Lumbini visit proposed for 2023 is like following the steps of Buddha. So how he moved, where he was. So we are following the life and the steps of Buddha, rather than India is more famous for the Buddhist arts rather than the Buddhist practices. Buddhist practices are more common in other countries, like Bhutan or Taiwan or China or many other countries, 19 countries. But the real Buddhist arts are in India, and that is not in this circuit, little away in the south. One is Samchi, as she rightly said. Another is Ajanta Ellora, also in the western India, which is an amazing place, nowhere to be found in the world. But those places we will not cover in this tour. This tour will be following the footsteps of Buddha, how his life developed and how he got enlightened, listening to all the stories of his life, not what happened after he died. That Buddhist art and Buddhist practices in Nepal is another amazing thing. There are 4 philosophies, practices in Buddhism, like Mahayana, Theravada, Vajrayana, and Tantrayana. These are all practiced in Nepal. The one country where all the 4 types of Buddhism is practiced is in Nepal. Some countries are only Mahayana, some countries are only Hinayana, Taiwan, Tibet is only Tantric, Vajrayana. But so that part I am trying to cover, if it is possible, in one of these days, so that the Buddhist practices are also covered to some extent, which follows after Buddha. The main trip is following the steps of Buddha, means understanding his life style, how he get enlightened, what inspired him, and how he got through all this process. There are 3 aspects, as I told you: the life of Buddha, the arts of Buddhism, and the practices of Buddhism, Buddhist practices. The 3 components we try to cover a little bit here and there, but follow the main life history of Buddha in the tour. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Maheshwarji. I have a question. So in this 4 sects, do they all follow the same philosophy? Core philosophy is the same, only practices are different. Is it like that?
There are some differences in philosophies also. Soon after the death of Buddha, there was a dispute among the followers, great followers. So they called a big assembly in I think it was in Savatthi, not in Savatthi. And after that big assembly, there was a conflict of interest. One fellow wanted the very strict, like Protestant and Catholic, Some group are very strict, some are more liberal. So liberal group formed Mahayana, and the very strict group continued following Theravada, which is Hinayana. So like Sri Lanka, they still follow the Hinayana or Theravada concept, which is more strictly following the philosophies and instructions of Buddha. But a greater majority of the people or a greater number of followers like to follow more simplified forms of Buddhism practices, which is called Mahayana. And there are more Mahayanis around the world than, of course, other practices. But when, after certain centuries, when these Mahayana practices or philosophies of Buddha got mixed up with the Hindu Tantrism, in India, more in Tibet actually, and in Nepal as well as in India, then the new concept of Vajrayana started based on Thunderbolt, which is a more tantric version of mystic kind of practices, which is more prevalent in Tibet and Kathmandu. So a very short exposure to this philosophical changes would be quite interesting. So I propose maybe in 2 days we can cover up much of that. Thank you.
Correct. Oh, that's interesting. And in the
Madu, you mentioned that you had also gone to Bhutan. Was that part of that trip? I mean, I know there was no travel by the Buddha in Bhutan, but was that part of your travel too? Or is this going to be part of the travel plan?
No, Bhutan we will not cover. So the November 2023, when we do this will be just Nepal and India, not Bhutan.
Gotcha.
And Sanchi Saranath won't be covered in this, Madu?
No, Sarnath will be covered, not Sanchi. Sanchi is in Madhya Pradesh. It's in, if you fly to Bhopal, from Bhopal, you need to take a car to Sanchi and go and stay there to see the stupa. You cannot finish it within 1 day. It is so big. You need to spend at least 2-3 days just to see it.
Okay.
So would you mind going back to the map and showing us the itinerary? I mean, at least the main points of interest?
Sure. I will. Yeah, sure.
We will, in fact, we will again rework out the itinerary, which is more suitable to cover within 10 days. So this is preliminary that Madhu has worked now.
Yeah. So, Valsa, we see this is Madhya Pradesh. Sanchi is here. We are not going to Sanchi. So we will start with Lumbini. We will spend 2 nights there. And from Lumbini, we can go touch on Kapilavastu. I mean, that can be done in a day. Then we come to India. We will stay in Sravasti. From Sravasti, we will go to Balrampur. From Balrampur, we will come to Kausambi. We will come to Sarnath. So when we come to Varanasi, from Varanasi, we can go and visit Sarnath. It's a day trip. And from there, we can come to Bihar and we can see Nalanda, because that's a place where, Buddhist preachings have been spread really very famous, because there was a Nalanda University. Then we can go to Rajgir. And we can go to Bodh Gaya. Again, Bodh Gaya will take 2 days, because there are 19 temples. All 19 countries which follow Buddhism, they have their temples there. You'll take some time to see these temples, There's no use just going for a day and, trying to cover everything. It'll be too tiring. And so there are very good hotels to stay in Bodh Gaya. There's an airport there in Bodh Gaya. So, you do not need to go to Gaya. You can just go to Bodh Gaya. And we will then end it in Kushinagar. And this is the place where he has been cremated. So from here, we can come to Lucknow and then we can fly out. All of you all can come to Lumbini, and from Lumbini, come to Lucknow, end the trip in Lucknow, and then fly out.
So you can fly into Lumbini, or maybe, or is it Kathmandu, or?
You can fly to Lumbini. You don't need to go to Kathmandu.
There are not many flights to Lumbini now at the moment, but by next year, the number of flights might increase. But still, some of the people might like to come via Kathmandu, and from Kathmandu, it's a domestic flight, 30 minutes flight to Lumbini.
Yeah.
So Maheshwar, how long is, from Kathmandu if you want to go to Lumbini? I'm saying not as part of this trip, but if you wanted to do that, is it easy to do?
Yeah, it's quite easy. There are a number of domestic flights. It's about 35 minutes flight, maybe 5-6 flights a day. And if you drive, it takes about 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours. And the road is quite comfortable, not a problem. Some of the countries, like right now, there is no direct flight from many of the Buddhist countries to Lumbini 8. Only the Middle East airlines are operating flights to Lumbini at the moment, but gradually it will come from Myanmar or from Thailand and many other Buddhist countries also by next year. But other countries, they have to probably fly to Kathmandu, which is served by almost 30 different foreign airlines, and then a short flight to Lumbini.
And Madhu, is the other option flying into New Delhi and then taking a train?
Yes, you can do that, but I think best is to come to Lucknow. Fly to Lucknow, not to Delhi.
Okay, gotcha.
Because Delhi to Lucknow is again 1.5 hours. Really, ideally, fly to Lucknow.
So the most central location would be flying into Lucknow?
Yes, yes.
And did you also mention there's an airport at Bodh Gaya?
Yes, yes.
Yes, there is Bodh Gaya also, yeah.
There is Bodh Gaya has a Gaya and Bodh Gaya. So you do not need to fly into Gaya. You can fly into Bodh Gaya and then you can stay in real good hotels there. Because so many tourists all across the world, they visit that place, especially the Bodhi tree. I mean, the original tree is not there, but the place is there where, the tree was. That is a very popular place. Very popular.
And the overall trip is, you're saying you'll tailor it to about 10 days or 12 days?
10 days. 10 days is fine. Or maybe 12 days. I personally did it 15 days. Like, I had a very relaxing tour for 15 days. I did it.
It will be, I think, 10 to 12 days. We'll try to optimize it as much as possible.
Okay, I have a comment, guys. Many Rotarians next week will start a Brazilian tour. Madu, Valsa, and Carol are part of that group. And in Brazil, we have very few Buddhist temples. However, in Iguaçu Waterfalls, the city you're going to be on next Saturday, there is a very big temple, big comparing Brazil size for a Buddhist size in Brazil. But we will visit a Buddhist temple. So I would like to ask Valsa and Madu to study a little bit to send to us some information when we visit that temple. Is it good for you guys?
Sure. Sure, we can do that.
Saturday we visit that temple. I guess in Brazil we have 3 or 4 temples, just that.
Yeah,
and one of that will be in Iguaçu Falls, and will be a part of our tour on Sunday. Next Sunday. No, not this one, the other one.